There is a tiny organ hidden deep inside your brain, no larger than a grain of rice, shaped like a pine cone, tucked away in the very center of your skull. And yet, for thousands of years, this humble gland has been depicted in sacred art, enshrined in temples, and spoken of in whispers as the seat of the soul. Why? Why would civilizations that never met, that spoke in different tongues and worshiped different gods, all revere the same symbol, a pine cone, a spiral, a third eye gazing inward and outward at once? The pineal gland is not just a biological curiosity. It is a living relic, a portal hidden in plain sight. To science, it regulates sleep and circadian rhythms through melatonin. To mystics, it is the doorway between the visible and the invisible. Descartes called it the principal seat of the soul. The Vedic sages called it the Ajna chakra, the eye of wisdom. The Egyptians carved it into the staffs of their gods. The Vatican itself displays a massive bronze pine cone, older than Christianity, standing in its courtyard like a silent guardian of forgotten knowledge. But here lies the mystery: did these ancient cultures know something we've forgotten? Was the pineal gland worshipped because it was a symbol of spiritual awakening, or because it was a literal tool for transcending the ordinary limits of perception? In this video, we'll journey into the history of the pineal gland, tracing its presence in ancient cultures, religions, and secret societies. We'll peel back the symbolic layers to uncover its real significance in esoteric traditions. Then, we'll dive into what modern science says, and what the mystics still insist, that the pineal gland is not simply a regulator of sleep, but the inner eye through which the human spirit glimpses the infinite. We will explore why this small gland was worshipped, how it became shrouded in myth and secrecy, and, most importantly, how you can begin to awaken it in your own life. This is not just biology. It is a doorway. And tonight, we open it. To understand why the pineal gland was so revered, we must look backward, into the minds of ancient civilizations who saw no boundary between biology and divinity, between the body and the cosmos. In ancient Egypt, the pineal gland was mirrored in their sacred symbolism. The Eye of Horus, that mysterious, protective emblem painted on tombs and temple walls, maps almost perfectly onto the cross-section of the human brain where the pineal gland resides. Was this a coincidence? Or a deliberate clue, a hidden message suggesting that the true eye was not on the face, but within the skull? Egyptians spoke of the inner sight that awakened when one transcended ordinary perception. For them, the pineal gland was not anatomy, it was initiation. Travel eastward, and you find the Vedic traditions of India describing the Ajna chakra, the third eye. Positioned in the center of the forehead, it is said to govern intuition, vision, and higher knowledge. The yogis taught that when this chakra was activated, one pierced the veil of illusion, maya, and glimpsed reality as it truly is. And while they never spoke of glands or neurons, their descriptions of this mystical eye align uncannily with the pineal gland's location and role in altered states of consciousness. In Greece, the philosopher Plato described the soul as imprisoned in the body, glimpsing truth only when free from sensory chains. Centuries later, René Descartes called the pineal gland the seat of the soul, the place where the immaterial spirit touched the physical body. Though science later dismissed this idea, Descartes was echoing a lineage of mystical thought, the belief that the pineal gland is the bridge between two worlds. Even Christianity holds echoes of this. In the Sermon on the Mount, Christ declares, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." Many mystics read this not as a poetic metaphor, but as a direct reference to the inner eye, the pineal gland, that, once awakened, illuminates the soul. And the symbols are everywhere. The staff of Osiris, crowned with a pine cone. Dionysus of Greece, holding the thyrsus, a rod tipped with the same pine cone. Babylonian carvings showing gods extending pine cones as gifts of life. Even today, the Vatican's massive bronze pine cone, older than Rome itself, sits as a quiet witness to this ancient reverence. Why a pine cone? Because its spiraling scales follow the Fibonacci sequence, the sacred geometry of growth and expansion mirrored in galaxies, seashells, and DNA itself. To the ancients, the pine cone represented the unfolding of consciousness, the spiral staircase between the human and the divine. The philosophical significance is clear. The pineal gland was worshipped not as flesh, but as symbol, the symbol of awakening, of transcendence, of the human being's latent power to perceive beyond the physical. It was the reminder that the body itself houses a sacred key, and that to unlock it is to step into realms beyond ordinary comprehension. But symbolism is only half the story. The deeper mystery lies in what this gland does, and why so many traditions considered it a portal. Was it merely metaphor, or did the ancients know of states of consciousness that modern science is only beginning to rediscover? To begin unlocking the mystery of the pineal gland, let us first step into its biological reality. At first glance, it appears almost insignificant, a tiny endocrine gland, nestled between the two hemispheres of the brain, shaped like a pine cone. Its primary role, according to modern medicine, is the regulation of melatonin, the hormone that governs our sleep and wake cycles. Simple enough, right? But here is where the mystery begins. Why would a gland responsible for sleep rhythms be enshrined in temples, carved into sacred staffs, and revered as a divine symbol for thousands of years? Clearly, there is more to the story. The pineal gland is unique. Unlike most of the brain, it is not shielded by the blood-brain barrier, allowing it to interact with the bloodstream in ways that hint at deeper functions. It also contains photoreceptor cells, cells similar to those found in the eyes. In other words, buried in the darkness of the skull is a gland designed to see. Could this be the origin of the third myths? A literal eye turned inward, perceiving not the outer world, but the inner dimensions of consciousness? Esoteric traditions claim yes. They speak of the pineal as a latent organ of spiritual sight, the interface between physical reality and higher planes of awareness. When awakened, it is said to produce visions, intuition, and direct perception of the unseen. Some modern theories suggest the pineal may even secrete trace amounts of DMT, the so-called spirit molecule, a compound capable of inducing profound mystical experiences. Whether this secretion occurs naturally remains debated, but the possibility aligns eerily with ancient accounts of the pineal as a gateway to transcendence. Think of the pineal gland as a radio antenna. Most of the time, it is tuned to the physical world, receiving signals of day and night, regulating the rhythms of the body. But under the right conditions, with training or altered states, it can tune to higher frequencies, picking up signals from realms beyond the sensory. This is why yogis, shamans, and mystics all develop techniques to stimulate or awaken it through meditation, chanting, fasting, or plant sacraments. They were not worshipping the gland itself, but the doorway it opened. And here lies the real reason it was worshipped. The pineal gland was seen as the human being's inner temple, the sacred chamber where matter and spirit meet. It was the seed of divinity planted in flesh, proof that the human body was not merely biological but cosmological, designed with built-in access to the infinite. To the ancients, activating the pineal was not just about visions or altered states. It was about liberation. It meant dissolving the illusion of separation and remembering that consciousness extends beyond the body, beyond time, beyond death. The pineal was the ladder between heaven and earth, the lamp inside the skull that, once lit, filled the body with light. But this is only the beginning. For as profound as these revelations are, the pineal gland is also shrouded in paradox and danger. Not all visions are true, not all awakenings are stable, and not all traditions agreed on what the pineal truly reveals. If the pineal gland is truly a doorway, then like any doorway, what lies beyond depends on who is entering and how. This is where the mystery deepens, and where reverence mingles with caution. Mystics across cultures warn that the awakening of the pineal is not a harmless curiosity. It is an amplifier. Whatever you bring into it, clarity or confusion, love or fear, is magnified. Just as a magnifying glass intensifies light into fire, the pineal gland intensifies consciousness into vision. But what you see may not always be what you expect. Consider this: many initiatory schools taught that premature activation could lead to madness, delusion, or entrapment in false visions. The ancient Egyptians restricted esoteric knowledge to priests and initiates, carefully trained to withstand the power of the inner eye. The yogic texts, too, describe the dangers of opening the Ajna chakra without discipline, warning of hallucinations, obsessions, and ego inflation masquerading as enlightenment. Why such warnings? Because the pineal gland is not just a spiritual telescope, it is a projector. It does not simply reveal reality, it also projects your inner reality outward. If your mind is clouded with fear, you will encounter terrifying landscapes. If you are corrupted by greed, you may meet entities that flatter and manipulate. In this sense, the pineal is a mirror of the soul, and the mirror never lies. And yet, those who approached with purity and discipline reported extraordinary states of being. They spoke of luminous visions, encounters with higher intelligences, direct knowledge of universal truths. Some described leaving the body, traveling across astral realms, and returning with insights that transformed not just themselves, but entire communities. These accounts echo across shamanic traditions, mystical writings, and even modern near-death experiences, all pointing back to the pineal as the central organ of transcendence. Science, cautious as always, still hesitates at the edges of these mysteries. Researchers confirm the pineal's sensitivity to light, its influence on circadian rhythm, and its calcification over time, a process some link to the dimming of spiritual perception in modern humans. But when confronted with the gland's uncanny presence in mystical traditions worldwide, science falters, unable to explain why cultures separated by oceans all revered the same pinecone symbol. So why was the pineal gland worshipped? Not because it was a curiosity of anatomy, but because it was seen as proof that human beings carry divinity within them. It was the secret the priesthoods guarded, the treasure the philosophers hinted at, the reason mystery schools spoke in riddles. To awaken the pineal was to reclaim your birthright, direct communion with the infinite. And this is why even today, it remains cloaked in both fascination and fear. For in awakening the pineal, you are not simply learning to see, you are learning to step beyond the boundaries of a world that insists it is the only one. To speak of the pineal gland without showing how to work with it would be like describing a locked treasure chest without offering the key. The ancients did not worship this gland in theory, they cultivated it in practice. The good news? You can, too. 1. Purify the vessel. The pineal gland is delicate, and modern life does it no favors. Fluoride in water, artificial light at night, processed foods, all contribute to its calcification, a hardening that dulls its sensitivity. Reduce toxins, clean water, whole foods, and natural sleep rhythms are the first step. Darkness therapy, periods of deep darkness, even as simple as sleeping without artificial lights, stimulate melatonin production, the precursor of altered states. The yogis of India, and later Taoist monks, often retreated into caves for this very reason. 2. Still the mind. Meditation is the primary key. Begin with simple breath awareness. As you progress, focus on the space between your eyebrows, the traditional third eye point. Imagine a small flame or sphere of light there, pulsing with each breath. Over time, this visualization trains the mind to converge awareness on the pineal center. Mantras and chanting also stimulate resonance in the skull. Vibrations travel through bone and tissue, activating the gland physically. Ancient chants like Om or Tibetan throat singing were not random, they were acoustic keys. 3. Harness the power of breath. Breath is the bridge between body and spirit. Techniques such as alternate nostril breathing, nadi shodhana, or breath retention, kumhaka, increase oxygenation, alter blood flow, and stimulate subtle energies. Some advanced practitioners use breath to build pressure in the cranial cavity, literally squeezing the pineal gland to secrete neurochemicals that enhance inner vision. 4. Light, sound, and frequency. The pineal gland is photosensitive, even in the absence of direct light. Sun-gazing practices, performed safely at sunrise or sunset, were believed to nourish the gland with pure solar energy. Similarly, binaural beats and specific sound frequencies can entrain brainwaves into meditative states, priming the pineal for activation. 5. Dream work and lucidity. Because the pineal governs sleep and dreaming, keeping a dream journal is a direct way to build a relationship with it. Record your dreams upon waking. Over time, you'll notice patterns, symbols, and moments of lucidity, subtle signs that your inner eye is stirring. With practice, dreams become training grounds for conscious exploration. 6. Cultivate inner purity. Remember, the pineal amplifies. If your mind is cluttered with fear, anger, or obsession, those will be the visions you encounter. Practices like mindfulness, self-reflection, and compassion are not just moral ideals, they are practical safeguards. The clearer the heart, the clearer the vision. 7. Gradual awakening, not force. The greatest danger is impatience. Many seekers want fireworks, visions, entities, out-of-body voyages, immediately. But forcing the gland open, whether through drugs or reckless ritual, can destabilize the psyche. The traditions always emphasize patience. Think of it as polishing a lens, slow, steady, deliberate. 8. Signs of awakening. As the pineal becomes active, subtle changes appear. Pressure or tingling in the center of the forehead. Vivid dreams. Heightened intuition. Synchronicities that seem too precise to be chance. These are not coincidences, they are signals that the inner antenna is tuning to higher frequencies. The purpose of these practices is not escapism. It is integration. Awakening the pineal gland means living more fully in both worlds, perceiving the sacred in the ordinary, the infinite in the mundane. The mystics knew this truth: visions are not the end goal. Transformation is. In the conclusion, we will weave everything together, the history, the symbolism, the practice, and uncover the deeper message behind why the pineal gland was truly worshipped. The pineal gland was never worshipped as mere flesh. It was honored as a symbol, a key, a living reminder that the human body is not just an animal shell, but a temple designed for transcendence. Ancient cultures wrapped its mystery in symbols of pine cones, spirals, and single eyes, not to confuse us, but to protect a truth too powerful to hand carelessly to the unprepared, that inside you rests a hidden eye capable of piercing the veil of reality itself. We've journeyed through history, from the temples of Egypt to the monasteries of India, from the philosophy of Plato to the whispers of Christian mystics. We've seen how the pineal was revered across continents, always associated with awakening, vision, and direct communion with higher realms. We explored its biology, its role in sleep, its unique photoreceptors, its potential to act as a receiver for frequencies beyond ordinary perception. And we've touched the practical, the ways you can begin to awaken it through meditation, breath, purity, and intention. The real reason the pineal gland was worshipped is this: it is proof that the divine was never outside of you. It was always within. It is the lantern in the skull, waiting to be lit. But let us end with a reminder the ancients would insist upon: awakening the pineal is not about chasing visions or escaping this world. It is about seeing more truly, recognizing that the material and the spiritual are woven together, that every moment of your life is layered with infinite depth. The pineal is not an escape hatch. It is a compass, pointing you back to your essence. So the question now is not why did they worship it? The question is, what will you do with it? The eye is there. The key is in your hands. And the worlds beyond are waiting.